In this video, we're going to switch gears and talk about buying a new car. And the first topic that you should consider if you're deciding to buy a new car is to decide whether you're going to buy a new versus a used car. And so let's just go through the pros and cons of each. So for buying a new car, there are several pros. For one, reliability. A new car is going to be reliable and also protected by warranties. So you're going to have less issues with the car breaking down or needing any unexpected repairs if you buy new, typically. And if something does go wrong, you're protected by the warranty that comes with the new car. Also, you can pick the features that you want. So when you're buying a new car, you can customize the car to your preferences. Also, newer cars have better safety features. As time goes on, the technology for safety has just gotten better. And so the newer car you get, the better the safety features. And also, you're potentially going to have better financing options with a new car. The dealer may offer you better than market financing because they just want to, they're in the business of selling cars. And so if they can incentivize you to buy a new car with better financing, they typically do that, especially if you have really good credit. There are also cons to buying new cars. One of the biggest is that there is an immediate depreciation after you buy it. So typically in the first year, you can expect the car to go down in value by approximately 20%. And so this first year, you're going to lose a lot of the value of the new car because there's a premium you get for buying a car new that you kind of lose as soon as you drive it off the lot. So the immediate loss in value is going to be large upfront and then kind of decreases each subsequent year. But the first year, kind of as soon as you drive it off the lot and it turns from a new car to a used car, there's a pretty steep decline in value. Also, higher insurance costs since the replacement value is typically higher. So the insurance cost is dependent on how much the car is to replace. And so with a newer car, it's going to be more costly to replace, and therefore the insurance is going to be higher. Okay, so let's do the same thing with used cars. So what are the pros? Obviously, it's going to be a more affordable option. It's more cost effective to buy used since you're getting it after this kind of immediate depreciation or loss of value when the car is new. And so you're, as a used car buyer, benefiting from that quick decline in value when a car goes from new to used. And so if you're buying a slightly used car, you can take advantage of the non-linear kind of decline in value by buying it used. Also, when you're buying a used car, the resale value is going to be typically closer to what you paid for it. So you could basically buy a used car and then after a few years, assuming you don't put a crazy number of miles on it, you can sell it for closer to what you paid than a new car, and therefore you kind of have some resale value that holds up well with the used car. And that it's all related to this kind of idea that a new car up front loses a lot of value and then the loss in value slows down over time. And so if you're buying it kind of further down the time curve, if you're buying a used car, you take advantage of that by basically not having the car lose as much value while you own it. So maybe we can graph it. So if we have a graph of the value of the car, so we can have value on the y-axis and t on the x-axis. So we start here with kind of the new value of the car, and then we have a big decline, and then over time it's kind of levels off. So you don't basically want to own the car over here because you have a really fast decline in value. And then but if you buy it here, then if you own it between this time, there's not as large of a drop in value. So that's kind of the idea with buying used. Okay, so there are also some cons to buy used. Of course, you could end up buying a lemon. So basically, if you buy used, you're taking a risk that the car you buy is going to have some issues with reliability or some mechanical issues. And you don't really know how the previous driver treated the car. So, if they drove it on rough roads or if they were abusing the brakes or, not driving it in a way that kind of is conducive to long-term maintenance and reliability of the car, you're not going to really know that for sure. So you do take a risk when you're buying a used car. Higher mileage. So the car is going to have higher mileage than if you bought new, obviously, because when you buy new, it starts at 0. So as mileage goes up in a car, that's when you start seeing mechanical failures and other maintenance issues. So you're just going to be further along the life of the car. And so you may end up dealing with some of those maintenance and issues that you may have to fix. And also, you just have a more limited selection. When you buy new, you have a whole lot of cars that are immediately available, while a used car you're just limited to what's available, and you may have to wait a little longer to get exactly what you want with the features. So those are kind of the cons of buying a used car. So one idea, which is kind of a middle ground between new and used, is to get a certified pre-owned car. And so what is this exactly? So basically, a certified pre-owned car is a used car that is certified by auto dealers usually. So basically, the car is used, but the dealer is acting as kind of a guarantor for the car, and they typically do an inspection of the car and kind of do some basic due diligence to make sure that the car is not a lemon. And if it ends up being one, they do act as kind of a protector by doing a couple things um, that we'll get into. So typically, a certified pre-owned car is also newer. They're typically less than 3 years old and relatively low mileage. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but basically, the certifier, which is usually a dealership, will give you a warranty that usually extends the benefits of the original manufacturer warranty. So if the original manufacturer warranty was only for 3 years and the car that is a certified pre-owned car is 3 years old, then that warranty is expired. However, the dealer will basically extend that warranty to cover this certified pre-owned car so that if it turns out to have issues, the dealer is taking that risk. So you do kind of get the benefit of the new car in terms of having protection against any issues, but you get kind of the price advantage of buying a used car. So there is obviously there's no free lunch here. Certified pre-owned cars are typically more expensive than other used cars, but they take the risk out of buying used, at least for the potential to buy a lemon. If you're a first-time car buyer, this could be a really good option for you, especially if you don't have experience buying a used car and you don't want to buy new or can't afford to buy new. This might be a good avenue for you to explore. And so typically, let's say you kind of know the model of car you want. Let's say you want to get a Prius, which is a very common car out there. You could go to the Toyota dealership or even look online. Typically, the dealerships will have their inventory of cars, including their certified pre-owned, online, and you can just view what they have and um, have get a sense of the price and the terms that they're offering. And so each kind of brand of car will have a similar program usually. So you could find, you know, Ford pre-owned, certified pre-owned on a Ford dealership's website. And so, that's a good starting place. Some of the larger used car dealers like CarMax also have some version of this kind of warranty that they'll give to the cars that they sell. So CarMax or Carvana or these other services that sell used cars that are larger and more reputable, are also worth looking into, rather than just, maybe buying a car off of Craigslist or some other smaller used car lot. Okay, so if you're on the path to buying a used car, there's some items that you should know about to check and kind of do your due diligence to vet the car to make sure that it's worth buying. So the first thing you should do is get the vehicle history, and there are a couple services that are well known for this. Carfax being the most well known, and Auto Checker. So you can basically pay some amount of money, and these services will basically give you the history of the vehicle, if it was in any accidents, how many previous owners it's had, just some basic information that you couldn't necessarily tell from just looking at the car. So this is a really valuable service. And so you basically just take the VIN number, which is the vehicle identification number that each car has. It's a unique identifier, and you put that VIN number into this Carfax kind of website. I believe it's web based. So you just put the VIN number in, and it will give you the full history of the car. The other thing is to check the title of the car. So this is especially important if you're buying a used car from Craigslist or a friend, or from a even a used car lot. This may be worth checking to just check the title. And so make sure that the seller who you're paying money to actually owns the car, that it's free of any liens, and has a clean title history. And so basically, there is a National Motor Vehicle Title Information System that you can use to do this. It's just a government website that you can check title. If possible, it would be very advisable to bring the car to a mechanic that you trust to have them inspect it prior to you purchasing it, just to make sure that there's no obvious issues with the car. This is not perfect, since many problems cannot be determined just from a visual or test drive, even by a mechanic. So it won't necessarily be a foolproof way to protect yourself against buying a lemon, but it's certainly better than nothing. So worth doing if you can, if the logistics of how you're buying the car permit. Okay, figuring out the value of the car. So this is going to be important to determine how much you're going to pay, if you're getting a good deal or not. So there's a couple ways to do this. There is using services where you can get the book value. And so there's a couple of online websites you can use. Edmunds.com and Kelly Blue Book are probably the two most common. And I think there's some information you can get for free, but I think to get the specifics, you may have to pay. But these services are worth using to make sure that you're not overpaying for whatever you're getting. Another way is to just check the comparables. So you can look on Craigslist, CarMax, AutoTrader, Shift, Carvana. So these are kind of used car online kind of services, Shift and Carvana, to see what similar cars are being bought or sold at. So this is a good way to kind of get a sense of what the market is for the car you're looking at. So buying a used car not from one of these larger services, if you're just going on Craigslist and buying from an individual, the advantages are that you can maybe get a pretty good deal, but there are some logistical things that you should consider. Obviously, The warranty and potentially buying a lemon is the obvious one we've discussed. But the actual logistics of the purchase, you got to make sure that before you pay them, that there's no loan on the car, there's no lien. So, making sure that whatever money you give is first given to the bank that has the lien to make sure that that's paid off so that you own clean title to the car once it's transferred. And just making sure that the transfer of title gets done properly with the DMV. There's just a little more legwork that you'll have to do, and things that you have to make sure are done correctly if you're buying directly from an individual. But again, this could be worth it if you're going to be saving a substantial amount. So it's worth looking into. And I believe the DMV has a step-by-step guide of like exactly how to do this. So I will link to that, and it's worth checking out if buying from directly from an individual is something that you're interested in doing.